All right, I think we're live. So, has this ever happened to you, or does this sound familiar to you? Excuse me, if you're dealing with a candida diet. So, I hear this kind of stuff all the time. Why do they keep trying to feed me food I can't have? Um, when I go to my friend's house, there's nothing I can eat. It's too hard because everybody else is drinking or eating, and there's nothing I can have, and they're always pushing food on me. So, hi everybody, I'm Ricki Heller. I'm a candida coach, and I help people on restricted diets learn to love their food again so that they can actually forget about their diets, feel great, and focus on healing their bodies and getting back to living their best lives. And today I wanted to talk about what happens when other people try to sabotage your diet. So it could be a candida diet, or it could really be any kind of restricted diet. And this reminds me of a story, and some of you who've been following me for a while will know this. When I went to my sister's house for the holidays, so I had just begun an anti-candida diet a little bit before, and maybe a few months before, and she invited me to the holidays at her house. And we had a little discussion. Excuse me. We had a little discussion about what my diet entailed. And she knew that I was on an anti-candida diet. So we talked about it. And when I got there, so because she said, okay, I got you covered, I kind of assumed I didn't have to pack my usual safe foods that I always took with me when I went anywhere. So we get to her house, and there was this big spread on the table of appetizers, and I saw, all kinds of little nibbles and bites and platters of cheeses and olives and all that kind of stuff. And there was really not anything I could have. There were some little crackers with hummus on them, so of course I could have hummus, but they were wheat-based crackers, and I have to eat gluten-free. So this was a little bit disconcerting, but I thought, okay, I'm just going to check and make sure. And please do let me know if you can not hear me. But of course, you didn't hear me say that if you cannot hear me. But can you hear me? So that was the appetizers. I thought, okay. Then she started putting out the buffet for the main course. And again, there were like meats and chicken, things I don't eat. There was this beautiful casserole in a cream sauce, and I was getting a little nervous. And so I kind of trotted into the kitchen as she was getting stuff ready to go into the oven. And I saw this huge platter of roasted vegetables, and she was about to put some breadcrumbs on them to roast them and have this lovely crumble topping. And I said, wait, can I please get a little bit of those before you put the breadcrumbs on them? And she said, oh, well, I thought that you would just take off the crumbs. I didn't, what's the big deal? Just as she had thought that, the salad that was out there, which had goat cheese and regular dressing, she thought I would just pick out the goat cheese. So no real understanding about what I had to eat. And in the end, I captured those veggies and I had those veggies. So curious if that sounds at all familiar to anything you've been through when you're dealing with this kind of diet, right? And it was a big learning moment for me, because I realized that I was going to have to be a lot more careful. And that now, was my sister evil? No, she actually thought she was kind of accommodating me. I'm sure if you had asked her, she would have said, well, what's the big deal? It's just a little breadcrumbs. I know, she doesn't usually eat them, but so what, right? So this kind of thing can happen all the time to people. And the question is, why do others in our lives continue to try to feed or force feed us things that we don't want to eat? I remember very clearly, I had a client who used to go visit her mother-in-law, and every time the mother-in-law would feed her, there would be gluten in what she ate. And this woman was celiac. And yet she felt she couldn't confront the mother-in-law, because this puts us in a tricky situation. So the question is, why? Why does that happen? And the hard answer is because these people are afraid. What's really happening in that situation when you adopt a new diet or a new lifestyle, the people who are close to you are scared that you are changing. And the truth is, you are changing. And why is this scary? Because as human beings, we are hardwired to be consistent and to avoid changes, because change can be frightening. We never know, if you think about the caveman, we never know what's outside the cave. It could be something different and something dangerous each time. So we have it hardwired in us to not want to change. And the fact that you have taken upon yourself, or sometimes with a candida diet, you haven't taken it upon yourself, it's been thrust upon you, like in my case, but you are changing in a way that makes other people fearful. And so in a case like that, you need to be mindful that these people aren't necessarily trying to sabotage you. What they're trying to do is keep their own life consistent and the same. And they're not even really thinking about what's good for you. So you have to take it upon yourself to do what's good for you in your own life. And I'll give you an example. So it actually doesn't even matter if it's a positive or a negative change, just before I tell you what happened to me. I'm talking about changes that are positive for you. So, of course, if somebody has a gambling addiction, or if you're going to cheat on your spouse and your friends are concerned about you, that might be the kind of situation where people with the best intentions could try to speak to you and try to ask you to stop what you're doing. But I'm talking about situations where what you're doing is actually positive, like being on a candida diet and sticking with it until your symptoms are gone, until you're healthy, until you can get back to an amazing life, or maybe even a better life than the one you had before. These are things that are threatening to those people around you, and we need to be aware of that. And so here's a little story. And if you're thinking about, how do I know? How do I know what people's intentions are? How do I know who are the people in my life that I can trust, and who are the people that I could count on to support me? Here's one way that you can look at it. I'm just going to quickly check and see if there are any comments here. And so I am checking my other screen. If you have any comments or questions as we go, please do put them underneath. So here's what you might want to look for, and I think can be very helpful when you're embarking on this journey, and also when you're trying to stick with this journey. I'm going to talk more next time about specifically how do you respond to people when they do try to sabotage you. But even before that, you want to know, am I walking into this kind of situation? So, like, as an example, with my sister, the next time I went to her house, believe me, I brought some food with me, right? I knew that no matter what our discussion was going to be before that, I was going to have to tend to my own food. So when I was an undergrad in university, I started dating my very first boyfriend. I was a really late bloomer. So I was about 20 when I started dating my first boyfriend. And he was the sweetest guy. He was kind of an eccentric person. He had left home. I'm sorry about the glare on my glasses. He had left home when he was 15 from an abusive family. He came sort of from very poverty-stricken family. His mom was an alcoholic. His dad was actually, I think, in jail. And so he just wanted to make a better life for himself. So he left home, and he was completely self-taught and self-supported. And so he was kind of scruffy, and he wasn't all that well off. We were in university, and he was basically spending all his money to put himself through school. But he was the sweetest, nicest human being with the best heart. And I was just totally enchanted by this guy. So it was my first semester at university, and I went home for Christmas holidays, and he came along with me because, as you can imagine, he didn't have family. And so here's what happened. I had a whole group of friends, and we all went out to dinner. And there were two reactions among my friends to this guy. A few of my friends kind of pulled me aside and sotto voce very quietly said to me, he's really low class. He's kind of crass, and he doesn't have any etiquette, and he's not good enough for you. And I really think that, you're making a mistake. And okay, I mean, we were totally from different backgrounds, right? Different socioeconomic class. His mother tongue was different from mine. Obviously, I was raised in a middle-class family, pretty stable. My parents never got divorced. So they were concerned, and that they made their concerns known. And you can imagine how that made me feel. there was another part of my group of friends that when we went out, they were just lovely to him, right? Welcoming, friendly, never made a peep about anything to do with his background. What they saw was just a good-hearted person who was treating me very well. And, I went back to university. We both went back. And over time, I think it was like the next semester, a few months later, the relationship just naturally kind of grew apart. But what that did for me as someone who had never dated before, and I was 20, it let me see that, oh, hey, look, it's possible for me to find someone who I care about, who cares about me. We broke up on very good terms. And it just left me with a lovely feeling in my heart, and it allowed me to move on and meet other people. And if you think about those reactions when I went back home and ask yourself, who do you think is still in my circle of friends to this very day? And I'm sure it's very easy to guess, right? The people who supported me. And even years later, when we talked about it, my friends said to me, I wasn't sure he was the best choice for you. I wouldn't have chosen him for you, but I could see how happy you were. And I could see that he was so in love with you and that you just had this lovely rapport with each other. And so I thought, well, she's happy. Who am I to say something, right? And so those are the people that I'm still friends with. Those are the kind of supportive people you want to hang out with. So if you think about, if you think about other changes in your life that you've made and who has supported you and who hasn't, and like I said, I'm not talking about negative changes, I'm talking about changes that are positive for you, then that's going to give you a pretty clear idea of where you need to be more wary and where you can relax a little bit more with your dietary changes and your quest for better health in your life. So that might be something just to think about when you're looking ahead to events or invitations, and maybe even think about, are these invitations I want to keep, right? Do I want to accept these invitations from people where you might already have a sense that they are going to be the saboteurs in your life? But I think the most important thing is to remember that this is coming from a place of insecurity and fear on other people's part. So it literally has nothing to do with you. And if we can keep that in our minds, that's going to help us as we approach these situations. I want to talk specifically about how to handle the saboteurs when it's happening. I'm going to do that next time. I want to keep these fairly short so people can watch them really quickly, but I'm just going to quickly check if there's any questions or comments. And I don't see any. So if you have any questions or comments for me right now, please do put them in the comments below and I will answer them right now. If you're watching this later, hi. And again, I always come back to these videos and answer any questions or comments that people leave. So I'd love to know how that resonates with you. And I'd also love to know, how has this played out in your life? If you're trying to follow a special diet, whether it be a candida diet, I'm playing around with low oxalate foods these days. Are you on a low oxalate diet? Are you on a FODMAPs? There's so many, celiac, so many special diets today. So if that's something you're trying to incorporate in your life and make permanent as you're healing and you're trying to do this for your own health, how has that played out with other people? And you don't have to name names or whatever, but I'd love to know what kinds of situations you found yourself in, especially because, like I said, next time I'm going to address specifics, so I can address a particular situation that you might have gone through, and that'll prepare you for the next time. So I still don't see any comments there, so I'm going to sign off for today. I got one sweet doggy waiting for me behind that closed door and she's dying to go for a walk before it starts to thunderstorm here, as I can see outside. So I hope that was useful. If it was, I hope you're going to join me every week with my email newsletter. I post articles. I just posted a new written article, so not a video, about a return to sweetness, how I made the shift in my own life to embracing the candida diet and the fact that I'm a sugar addict. So how did I make that shift from dealing with chocolate and treats and being a baker? I was a professional baker for a while. And when and how did I make the shift to totally embracing this diet that I'm on now? That's the most recent article. So that's written on my site, rickiheller.com. But you get links to all of these, the videos, and I've got, I think, close to 900 Candida-friendly recipes on my site right now. Every week, I'm going to be sending out recipes in my email newsletter as well. So now you're dying to know, how do you subscribe, right? So you just go to rickiheller.com/subscribe, and that'll get you on the list every Sunday morning, so you won't miss a thing. And I will see you there. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.